Again, I'm Kathy Kuntz, and welcome to the webinar. I'll give you a little bit of background on Cool Choices, and then we'll launch right into our discussion of changing hearts and minds. Cool Choices is a nonprofit. We're based in Madison, Wisconsin. We do work nationally and indeed internationally with businesses and local units of government, really helping them transform their workplace cultures around sustainability, getting people excited about what's going on around environmental sustainability in particular, getting people to participate in what's going on in a way that can accelerate the organization's achievement of its bigger goals around these things. And so we spend a lot of time talking about kind of rank and file employees and all the folks who can, in a variety of ways, contribute to the sustainability effort. As I thought about this particular topic, though, I really wanted to start with an acknowledgement that from where we sit, it's you, the sustainability leads, who are really the epic heroes on this quest. You know, you're the ones who are making really amazing things happen inside organizations around sustainability. You're doing astonishing things, sometimes with pretty difficult constraints around what you're doing. And from where we sit, that's a really exciting story, and it's a story that we know people in your organization would be really excited to hear and to be part of. I'm noticing that I never shared the poll results, so then okay, hide that, because I need to keep kind of, so you're the hero of this story. And, you know, it's a story that a lot of other people in your organization should be excited about. The challenge, of course, is that those people have a bunch of other things that they're paying attention to. You know, increasingly, each of us has, it feels like, a million things that are due yesterday. And then there's the kids' carpool to figure out. And what are we making for dinner tonight? And what are we going to do about that report that's due? There's a tremendous amount of things that are pressing people and making it hard maybe for people to pay attention to the stories you're telling or the accomplishments that are happening around sustainability. And so sometimes people don't hear your story in the way that they might. And I'm just curious, before I go further, I'm going to launch a second poll here. I'm interested in hearing who in your organization right now is excited about what you're doing around sustainability. If you want to check there in the box whatever groups are excited about what you're doing. And I think I set this up so that you could check more than one. Hopefully I did that right. And it looks like people are voting, voting, voting. We'll give you another minute to pick things there. Again, this is the groups that are excited, the other departments that are excited about what you're doing. It looks like we've sort of had the votes we're going to get, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to share it. So that you can see that, so folks are saying a third leadership, a third rank and file, and a third other. So not necessarily marketing, sales, or finance. I want to suggest to you that there are departments that it's really important that they're excited about what you're doing. And the first of those, I would say, is sales and marketing, which didn't get, so nobody thought their sales and marketing were necessarily really enthusiastic about what they're doing. Why they should be enthusiastic is because 2/3 of consumers are now saying that they prefer to buy from a company with a strong green record. So talking about your accomplishments is a way for marketing to get more customers and for sales to close more customers. And that's really true across the continuum, whether you're selling to individuals or other businesses. In fact, if you're selling to other businesses, the preference for sustainable products is even higher than it is on the individual side. So there's this enormous opportunity if sales and marketing understands what you're doing and is sharing that effectively for them to grow revenue. The other group that is has some potential to be really excited about what you're doing is human resources. So increasingly, all of our organizations are struggling to fill positions, to find the talent we want out there in the market. And it's noteworthy that 8 in 10 millennials, and the stat is about 7 in 10 workers overall, want to work for a company where they can play a role in sustainability. 9 in 10 workers in the last survey I saw on this want to work for a company that has a good environmental track record. And indeed, lots of young people are saying that they would turn down a position at a company that didn't have a good environmental track record. So it's really important that the story of all the things you're accomplishing is resonating with HR so they can talk about that with candidates and bring in the talent that you want in your organization. Finally, I would just say it's really important that rank and file be excited about what you're doing, because increasingly you're going to need rank and file to get the savings you want to get. When we look at high-performance buildings with really efficient shells and heating and cooling systems, 55% of the load in those buildings is plug load. People having coffee makers and refrigerators and space heaters and 18 other things in 2 or 3 really big monitors at their cubicles. And for you to influence any of that, you need hearts and minds. You need people excited about what you're doing. You need people jazzed about the story you're making happen, that epic quest that you're on around sustainability. So to get people excited about that, we need to start with what that story is you're telling. And very often when we interact with sustainability folks and I say, so are you sharing your results with people internal to your organization? They say, oh yeah, at least every 6 months we put something in the company newsletter. And I've seen some of those stories in the company newsletter, and my litmus test for this is always, is this a story that my mom would be excited about? And I got to tell you that statements about how many megawatt hours the organization saved is not something that would resonate with my mom. That's internal jargon that she would not follow. You really need to think about, how do I tell this story in a way that's compelling across the organization, to people in sales, to people in HR, to people in finance. And it's really often about just coming up with a really simple analogy. We saved enough electricity to power Springfield. Now, that's a fact that can stick in someone's head, that they can pull out when they're talking to a customer who is indicating a preference for green products. Well, we've reduced our electric consumption enough to power the town of Springfield for a year, or whatever town. So thinking about, how do you make that story compelling and accessible to everyone in the organization? That's the first piece of sort of engaging hearts and minds. The next piece is really about empowerment. You need to help people see how their actions make a difference. Okay, you saw 8 in 10 millennials want to make a contribution. It might turn out that the best way for rank and file staff in your organization to make a contribution is to recycle appropriately. That may be the biggest thing that they can do to help you achieve your goals, which is completely legitimate. But you need to articulate that to them in a way that motivates them to do that. By everyone recycling, we accomplish X, Y, and Z. Reusing paper, printing double-sided has saved us the equivalent of 100 trees this year. Something that makes that really tangible, a story they can hold on to, but also really motivates them to see how they're part of this. And when you're doing that, when you're having those conversations about how people are part of this, one of the things that's really important is that you don't frame this all in negative ways. So human beings are social creatures. We all have a tendency to follow the majority. And so when you tell me most people in our organization do not recycle, what I hear is it's okay not to recycle. And indeed, recycling seems kind of futile if everyone else in the organization isn't doing it. It's really easy for us to do this, to get frustrated by what's going on and harp on everybody left their computer monitor on when they went to the meeting. Been there myself, where I felt like that's the thing I want to yell. But that doesn't accomplish anything. That just tells everyone that everyone's doing it and it's really okay to do. You want to think about how to frame these things in positive ways. And if you can't frame that in a positive way, so for example, the computer monitors, in a case here where if everyone left their computer monitors on, I would say, everyone here agrees that saving energy is a good thing. Let's figure out how to turn off our computer monitors. So I always am trying to think about how to frame that in a positive way. And let's just talk through what happens when you frame things in a positive way and then recognize people for what they're doing. Because there's a virtuous circle here that's really important to understand. So when you catch someone doing the right thing, you say, Tom, that's great that you followed the recycling protocol. I know it's a new thing and it's a little complicated, but it's great that you did it. Two things happen when you give Tom that recognition. First, for Tom, it's this really strong reinforcement. And when you're publicly saying, Tom, you did this right, Tom feels pressure to keep doing it right. So you're reinforcing his behavior in a way that will kind of keep him on that path that you want folks on. At the same time, other people like Alice are going to notice that Tom got kudos, and she's going to mimic the behavior to get kudos too. And so you then have opportunities to praise Tom and Alice, which motivates yet more people to do things and reinforces those behaviors for Tom and Alice. And it becomes this circle. And this becomes even more powerful when you empower everybody to be part of that recognition piece. I think one of the easiest ways for an organization to mobilize hearts and minds around sustainability is really to empower people to catch each other doing the right things and publicly offer congratulations or submit photos. Maybe people email you photos of people doing the right thing and you keep a page on the intranet where you're congratulating people. That circle of positive reinforcement gives people the sense that this is what we're doing and this is how we're all connected together. And ultimately, that's the piece you want for people to really think, oh, our target is reducing waste. We're on a quest to reduce the water usage in this facility. And every time one of us does something smart, we get patted on the back for it. Increasingly, you've got everyone facing in the same direction, aiming at the same target around that. And that becomes a really powerful thing. And again, there are really simple ways for you to do that, to get everyone moving in the same direction. One of my favorite quotes from one of our past partners. Here's Cool Choices. We use an online platform to do this. So we work with companies and local units of government to customize a platform, and in the platform, people come in, they join teams, they get to earn daily points for the things they do, and they have the potential to win some prizes, some bragging rights, and ultimately what we're doing is creating a transparent system that is prompting people to talk about sustainability and to build those new social norms, a way for people to get credit for what they're doing, But there are a variety of ways you can do that. And as you're thinking about doing that, there's kind of one more thing in this whole building culture and hearts and minds that I want you to think about and pay attention to. And that's kind of the squeaky wheel piece of this. So for all of you, I know there are a number of things you're working on in terms of big objectives to get things done. And as you start communicating about that to rank and file, increasingly people are going to point out opportunities for improvement in the organization. And it's really important for you to have an appropriate mindset around that. So I chatted recently with a facilities lead at a major university who, you know, she's working on these huge projects to change how water is used across the campus. And she'll get emails from people saying, there's a faucet that's dripping in the third floor women's bathroom in this building. You should do something about that. Because after all, she's talking about how the campus is committed to saving water. And it's really easy to have the inclination to go, okay, that faucet is not where we're going to save millions of gallons of water, shut up. But part of what you need to understand is for that person standing in that bathroom where there's a dripping faucet, it seems like this really obvious indication that the goals aren't real, that we don't really care about saving water. Because if we did, we would fix that faucet. It's been dripping for weeks. And so in the capacity of all the things you're doing, you have to figure out how to respond to those requests, how to let people know you hear them, and how to get those things addressed as best you can, or at least let people know when they will be addressed in the scheme of things. And it's really important because part of what we see in our program certainly is people are driven a little bit crazy by these things that are relatively minor but seem to them to be emblematic of the organization not living up to its goals. Indeed, we did a white paper on this where you can get a lot more examples of the kinds of things that drive people crazy around different parts of an organization's operations. You can download that off our website. But it's a really important thing to be cognizant as you start opening this conversation and having people excited about what you're doing. They are inevitably going to identify opportunities forward, and you need to have a good strategy for dealing with that. You need to make sure that when they bring you an idea, they feel like they understand where that's going to fall in the priorities and how it's going to fit into the things in a bigger way. Kind of the worst thing is for them to feel like that just falls into a black hole and no one cares about the opportunities they saw. Because ultimately, when you're doing this in a way that you're trying to change culture, that you want everyone excited about this epic journey, it means you're on a shared journey now. You're helping each other a little bit down this path. That everyone has a role in this. And to get to that place, you've really got to do this a little bit differently. You've got to think about, okay, how do I collaborate with all of these different pieces there to make it a shared journey? And with that, I want to open things up to questions. So there in the GoToMeeting sidebar, you've got a thing, if it's closed, you can hit the orange arrow to open it up, and then you'll have a box where you can enter questions. And I'm gonna see if there's questions there. I'm sorry, someone noted that our audio has been a little bit funky today. We'll try to figure out what's going on there. Normally it's not giving us trouble with these. I apologize if there have been challenges. So someone's asking a question about how do you find the story that gets everyone excited? Because a different story might excite people in sales versus finance. And the reality is you're probably going to tell more than one story. So, I encourage you to think about, okay, a story like, oh, we're powering a whole town, or we saved enough water to fill this many Olympic swimming pools, is a visual that can appeal to lots of folks. But there are cases, and certainly for finance folks, you're going to want to talk dollars and cents more than anything else. You might, though, be able to translate that if you're a school. I always think it's amazing when schools can talk about their energy savings in terms of other things that are more important to schools, like we saved enough money to pay 2 teachers' salaries for the year, or to buy computers for the 2nd grade. Something that makes people go, oh, that's a thing that I know has real value in our organization. So that's sort of the ways to maybe think about that. To sort of summarize the pieces of this a little bit today, so if to capture hearts and minds, you need to tell a compelling story. You need to help people see where they fit into that story. And you need to really welcome them as co-conspirators on this journey that you're on. And with those efforts, I think you have the potential to get your whole organization excited about sustainability, to have people bragging about what you're doing at holiday parties in their neighborhood. Because after all, you are on this epic quest, and you're doing pretty amazing things. They should be bragging about what you're doing at holiday parties. With that, I think it doesn't look like we've got more questions, so we like to keep these short. We know you have a million things to do, so I will stop there. Thanks so much for joining us today, and feel free to reach out if you have other questions later. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.